The home was previously on the market and under contract with another agent. Unfortunately, the home did not sell, and so the sellers came to me and asked for my expertise. So that's why you and I are here today, Jess.
Yep.
So let's talk about how we got here.
We're really going to outline, okay, what was the original problem? What solutions and strategies did we come up with? And then we can talk about the outcome and all of the great stuff that the sellers were able to get based on what we did from the agent side, the staging side, some of the repairs, and then ultimately marketing the property.
One of our biggest obstacles was timing. Here we are in December. Everyone's focused on the holidays. We have a property that didn't sell, that needs repositioning, relaunching, just reinvention. We really needed to be strategic with that. So we knew we needed to do a coming soon campaign to start generating interest, but there was work to be done before it actually got to the market.
I remember the first time we walked through this together, and we were really looking at it from the buyer's perspective. And it was vacant, no furniture, no staging.
It was 50 degrees.
It was 50 degrees, it was freezing. We immediately walked into this space, which used to be blue. And it really took away from the floors, from the outside view, from all of the other things that were really great about this space, and then the entirety of the home. And it was also something that we could easily see being either a fourth bedroom with the ensuite, with the door, or a space like this where you can lounge, you can entertain. It can be that second kind of bonus room. So as we walk through, there's a lot of potential, but there were some repairs and some other things that the sellers hadn't got to. And if we were really gonna position this as a premium product, we needed to do those repairs to get the premium price.
Because that's what was important to the sellers, right? We had talked to them about, we could bring the property back to the market quickly, but it would be at X price. If we did certain things to the property, we would be able to list at this price. If they were able to do the full package, which you recommended, then we would be able to list for a much higher price. And so it was really about alignment with what the seller's goals were. And so once we figured that out, we then had a strategy to move forward. And they knew with the timing, they wanted to get as much for the property as they possibly could. So they chose the full approach, which was amazing.
That's why we were able to really have the outcome that we'll talk about. There was an investment by the sellers. It wasn't an expense, even though they had already spent some money to update some things in the home. It was really an opportunity to do an additional investment to make it that premium product so that we can market it in a way that was really going to attract different types of buyers as it was relaunched onto the market. There was no way we could relaunch this as the same thing and still appeal to buyers in the same way and get that higher price point that the sellers really wanted.
Exactly. And we all know when a buyer walks through a property, when they start seeing a list of things that they need to do, all they do throughout the entire home tour is take the list price of the property and start subtracting all the things they want to do to get down to a price that they feel is comfortable. We wanted to make sure that when buyers walk through this home, that's not what they were doing, which is why I initially reached out to you, because I knew we were going to have to do something different. And we need to help buyers imagine how they're going to use these unique spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming in with fresh eyes and looking at what kind of prep the property still needed, what we were going to stage. We talked about options. We did go all in with updating those repairs that were going to have the biggest return on investment.
Absolutely.
And then stage the entire property and really making sure we were inserting some really memorable moments. My favorite one
Memorable moments, yes.
The book nook that's up in one of the
my hidey
a little kind of camping space that families or anybody that's really kind of coming into the space will remember. And taking advantage of those really kind of interesting architectural features of the home. Another thing with this property that was really great is the flexibility of the spaces and how they could be used as an office or a dressing room, eventually another bathroom, another primary or another first floor bedroom that we're sitting in now, or an entertainment bonus space. So there was a lot of flexibility, and that was the biggest opportunity to kind of market the home as that flexible option. This isn't necessarily a home for first-time home buyers. This is a home for somebody who's move up, who is expanding their family, who has multi-generational living that they need to consider. So we staged it in a way to align with those potential buyers that are out there looking for a home like this in Collingswood.
And that's what we did, right? Is we just didn't come up with these things willy-nilly. We had a strategy session. We talked with the sellers about their goals. We made sure everything was in alignment with all of that, making sure we had a buyer avatar for the property and then generating everything around that. So it's really not a one-size-fits-all approach, which is great about working with Jess. It was a cooperative effort, and I think that's really what made this property that much more special.
Yep, we were collaborative. It was a partnership. We made sure that we were cohesive in all of our own marketing, the stuff that I was posting on social media, the stuff that I was doing with staging, what you were carrying through with the listing, the launch, the photography, the social media, and all the other marketing that was happening. The Zillow listing got a ton of views. Do you want to talk about that part?
Not really, no, but I will, because everybody who came through the open house, we had over 55 people through the open house, everyone was commenting on the video, which is a good thing, right? I mean, we did something a little bit different. It was a little bit out of like character for me, but it showcased the house. More importantly, it made people remember the property. Because remember, we're trying to overcome such a negative view from both buyers in the market and agents in the market, because the home was on the market and did not sell, which is the biggest negativity that you need to overcome. So we knew we had to do something different. So with the video, it was a lot of fun to shoot. Our videographer was a good sport about my frantic energy, but everyone loved it because it was memorable.
Yes.
And so instead of remembering that the room used to be blue or that the home was on the market and didn't sell, what they remembered was there's this really cool house with a really cool video in Collingswood, and I should probably send it to my friend, and then we should probably go check it out. So when I first reached out to the sellers, we were really talking about strategy, and that's when I brought you in with the staging, and especially with your pay at close option, which I want you to talk a little bit more about. But ultimately, we wanted to reposition the property, we needed to stage, but we needed to do a few other things, and they initially wanted to do virtual staging. And we were so aligned in that conversation with the sellers about how it really does not build trust with a home buyer, because they're seeing these photos online, they come in person, and the experience is completely different. We don't want them having another negative experience. So Jess, they were a little hesitant about making some investments in the property, and I thought it was best for them to talk directly to you. And so what happened then? Because I was on a plane. And I'm like, Jess, I need you to call my clients. What happened then?
So yeah, the sellers were a little hesitant, and I really wanted to have a conversation directly with them. I talked to them on the phone, and they were really kind of nervous, and they needed to clearly build some trust with me. What we were really getting into was what repairs needed to get done, my approach to staging, why I thought these recommendations were really important, why I thought investing a little bit more money into them was so important. And they really just needed the confidence, the reassurance that we were gonna come in and take care of this property for them. And after going through a situation that didn't work out, they wanted to make sure if they were spending more money, that they were going to get a return on that investment. So we had a very long conversation, and by the end of it, we were laughing about some of the really interesting details of the home, including the hidden phone behind the door
Which is a lot of fun.
A lot of fun, and something that I really personally enjoyed. And I was spending time in the space before staging to really think through how could we make this home memorable? What are those details? What are those elements of the home that are really going to stand out for buyers? And that came through in the conversation with the sellers. And also letting them know that we had different options like pay at close. So they didn't have to, out of pocket, spend that extra money to update and really get it to that higher premium tier of a home as we were going to relist it. So they took advantage of that. It was an incredibly easy process. Very easy. They were approved after they applied within a few days, and then we were immediately able to start working, move it forward. And then everything that they spent on this home to get it ready to be sold is now going to be paid at close. So they don't actually have to see anything.
I think the biggest thing too for the sellers is they're obviously not living here anymore.
Yeah.
They've already moved into their other home. They did not have the time nor do people have the experience to be able to manage multiple contractors and deadlines and getting people in and making phone calls and letting people in. That's where you come in.
Yeah.
With that added service, which just takes a lot of the stress right off of the sellers, right? They were already super stressed out. We didn't want them to be any more stressed out than they needed to be. So you were able to project manage that whole repair, staging, painting, all of the items with the pay at close option, which is huge.
It's huge, and that's one of the new services that we wanted to offer with McGinley Interiors, is that not only can we stage a home for you, but we can manage, make sure that we're dealing with contractors, the timelines, the schedule, and it actually helps us accelerate that timeline a little bit, because we were able to come in, check on the vendors, see what they were doing, where they were at, bring in some of the furniture. And because these were our guys that were coming in and doing the work, we were able to manage them and manage the flow of getting everything in here and set up. So we were able to list the property, even though it started as a coming soon, very quickly and sooner than we would have had that been managed by the sellers. And then we're just taking that stress off of you as the agent, the sellers themselves, and we're handling it all for them to make sure it's done right. We did paint the second floor balcony, which was a bit rough when we first walked through it.
It was a little rough.
A little rough, but because of the winter months, we also had to delay that slightly, but it was a value add in the marketing for the property coming soon. And then when it eventually was listed live, we had people here painting, and then we got to put a sign up and said, hey, this is fresh paint.
Don't walk on it.
You know, don't walk on it. And, you know, immediately after that, we were getting a lot of offers. That allowed us to really easily take over that headache and stress of scheduling the contractors, making sure things were done properly. We were able to come over multiple times to check on that. So it's really something that we're able to handle on behalf of a seller and agent.
So let's talk a little bit about the ROI, because I think a lot of people, when they think about initial investment, again, it's that out of pocket, what can I expect? What is the actual ROI on what they invested with a pay at close option versus what they're getting in return?
After I calculated the actual numbers, it's over 500% return on investment. It's selling for $35,000 over the list price, but $75,000 over what it was previously under contract for before you took over the listing, which is incredible. The fact that there was a bidding war, that you had so many people coming in for the open house, so many people setting up showings during the holidays. This was over Christmas, New Year's. It was supposed to be coming soon, and it had to go live within 24 hours, right? After it was listed coming soon. And we thought teasing it out as coming soon would be the right approach, but it had so much interest. So that little bit of an investment was a huge return and made the seller so much more money. Had they just gone listed it as is, you know, even just did a minimal staging package and didn't do the repairs, there's no way that they would have seen that number as a final sales price for this home. One of the ways that we're able to get that ROI, like I said, it's not just the repairs, it's not just the staging, it's everything all together. But I do want to talk a little bit about the staging and how important it is. So it isn't just putting furniture in the room. You know, of course, of course that's fun.
I can do that.
It's a little bit more complicated than that. There's a lot of strategy, there's a lot of logistics, and we mentioned before that we were really thinking about showcasing the flexibility of this home. Another thing that staging does, and it's the right furniture, the right decor, the right layout, is to really illustrate the scale, the flow, the flexibility. We're thinking about placement in front of windows, doorways.
How you walk around.
How we kind of show that, yes, you can have room for a sofa here. A lot of questions that people ask coming into a home is, will this fit my sofa? Where do I put the TV? I don't know where I'm going to put my coat when I come in the front door.
With no front coat closet.
No front coat closet here. So we stage that in a very specific way to show, hey, this is an entry space. This is a little seating area by that wood burning fireplace. This is where you relax with a cup of coffee, a glass of wine. This isn't necessarily where you're watching TV, but this space that we're in, you can.
Right.
So we really wanted to make sure that that was clear. And then in the primary suite showing, hey, here's where the bed goes. So you have a view of the sunset. Here's where you can have a dressing space or have another office area. So it's a really strategic way of decorating the spaces and making sure that it looks the best that it can. And it's really showcasing those specific elements, architectural elements, the lighting, the colors,
the
the
lighting
space.
here is amazing.
It's amazing. So we really wanted to place things in the space that made sense. So that is another part of why we were able to do so well, because we were able to get really beautiful shots for the marketing.
Yes.
Really make it make sense when you come into the space, so it doesn't feel disconnected or disjointed and you just get it.
And people spent a lot of time in these rooms. So during the open houses, people were here for over 45 minutes, which
that's a long time.
They were getting an emotional connection to the property. And ultimately that's what we as agents want them to have. And that's what was achieved with the strategic staging, with the repairs, with the painting. Was they were having an emotional connection with the property. They didn't want to leave, and that's always a good thing. And the other thing I like that you did too, Jess, in your staging is you incorporated local pieces from some of the local shops here in Collingswood.
Yes.
Right, and that was a big deal because people who are from here loved hearing those little anecdotes about where certain pieces came from.
Yeah.
Because then it was like, feels like home.
Yeah.
And we want it to feel like home.
We do. We want people to walk in and they feel connected to not only the home, but the community and the location.
Absolutely.
And we have a lot of local pride ourselves as McGinley Interiors, and we want that to also show and for buyers and even the sellers to recognize that we're making that connection. So we did get a lot of decor that you see around us right now from those local Collingswood shops, and then we posted on social media. We're making sure that we were sharing that, we were telling them that we were staging this property with some of their items, and they were just really excited to be part of that process. And we've built such great relationships with those shop owners that we want to make sure that we are supporting small businesses because we're a small business ourselves.
Of course.
So that's really, really important to us, and we try to do that whenever we can with the homes that we stage.
I think the word here is synergy.
100%.
Right? Synergy?
100%. Yes.
Because that's how I feel. I feel like it was just this very organic yet strategic plan for this home. And so that leads right into how we decided to market the property. Cohesive. And so with all of that, we knew the marketing campaign had to be something special. It really deserves a launch process, which we do at JFKLiving, but it's not a one size fits all for sure. And so that was really what we wanted to dive into, was showcasing the strengths of the home and also outlining all of the different items that make it special, including location, parking, again, keeping in mind that buyer avatar of who we're trying to target with the reach. And then coupled with your marketing as well, it really started to build up that fear of missing out.
We also offer that as part of our services with McGinley Interiors. So I actually have a background in marketing, and
yes, you do.
One of the things that we talked about from a strategic perspective was not only the staging, the repairs, how this may roll out when it is actually live and listed on Zillow and other platforms. It was the lead up to that. So I'm posting on my social media about all the things that we're doing, why we're doing it. I'm tagging you, JFKLiving, you're resharing. So there was content coming out about this home
almost every day.
2 weeks before it even hit Zillow. Even before any of the photos, the video, anything were shared, we were already supplying you with content. So we had a very cohesive strategy. We were very aligned from the beginning of, here are our talking points, here's what we're going to make sure that we are conveying, and then you just picked it up from there.
Absolutely. So again, we're trying to overcome the negative publicity that the home has had. We knew that the marketing was going to have to be amped up a little bit different, more strategic. And so we knew the Coming Soon campaign was an absolute must. While we're getting the property ready, it needs to be out there front and center. And so we came up with a video strategy of about 4 to 5 different videos to be able to showcase the things that make this property unique. the location, the diversity of the spaces, and all of the different things that we had talked about. And so those videos were shot. I shot them, and then my amazing marketing manager, Steph, put them together. She had the total vision of what we had talked about. And then we knew the out-of-the-box video idea. A little unhinged, a little Steph Barkley inspired comedy from the West Coast. And that took off really, really well. I mean, TikTok blew up. It was getting shared and reshared, and people were talking about Collingswood. Where is it at? How big is the yard? All of the things we wanted to showcase is what people were talking about. So we're getting this buzz, Then we're doing the Zillow Showcase listing. Not only do you get professional photography and videography, but you're getting floor plans. A house like this, people love floor plans. Buyers love them. I love them. Let's give the people what they want. How is the house laid out? So they get floor plans, they get a 3D tour. They can show from where in the room a photo was taken, so they get a better understanding of the expanse of the space, coupled with a dynamic listing. So when you go on Zillow and you see it, it's not just static photos, it's like a video montage of the best shots of the property. Even how we put the photos in the MLS to where it was posted out online. We didn't do 10 exterior shots in the very beginning. No one wants to flip through 10 exterior shots to see what the kitchen or the bathrooms look like. We, again, memorable moments was kind of our mantra throughout this. We wanted to make sure that those beginning shots were ones that grabbed the buyer's attention, because if they saw the exterior of the house, they may have remembered that was the house I looked at before and rejected. We did not want that to happen. And then we came up with a great email marketing campaign with our deal of the week in Collingswood, which teases out information. People respond wanting more information. And then agents started reaching out, and that's where we had to really accelerate because there were so many people who wanted to see it. Our goal was to have the property listed 1st of January. Coming soon through the holidays, so people are scrolling, they're like saving, they're looking around. I can't live with my in-laws anymore, and they're gonna go look after the holidays. No, we had to go live immediately because there were so many people wanting to get in to see the property. So with all the marketing, we had 55 people through the open house on weekends where it was supposed to be no one around. Views online, over 56,000 views.
It was incredible.
And that was, I think that's even low. I think they've gone up since then. We were able to show with our seller report to the homeowners, hey, not only were we able to do all of these things, but look at the results that have come from our marketing campaign. They get to see all the videos, they get to see the views, they get to see the Zillow saves. The Zillow saves and views were 4 times more than any other property in the area. And so when they got their offer, that was $35,000 over the list price and $75,000 more than what they were under contract with before, there was nothing but squeals of joy coming through the phone.
That's what you want.
That they were so excited.
Yeah.
They were so excited, and the terms of the offer could not have been any better. It was such a joyful moment, and all of the stress, all of the worry that they had about making this investment, it went away. They could see results. Not only were they promised, but they were delivered, most importantly.
What a lot of people don't realize is that staging and property prep, those are marketing tools.
Absolutely.
Those are the elements that work together with the photos, with the listing, with the videos, with the social media. That allows the content to shine and to have that clear connection between what I'm seeing online and what I'm experiencing when I come into the home. So when you're talking about the 360 views and the different angles of the spaces, we want people, when they come into the space, they can see it, they can feel it, they can connect with it, and it isn't a surprise. Because I'm sure there are plenty of buyers, you have experienced this yourself as an agent, that walk into the home and oh, wait a minute, this doesn't look anything like it did online.
So disappointing.
Nothing. And even,
So
some of the previous photos of this property before we came in
were not flattering.
And I remember saying to you, oh, this home is so nice, but it doesn't show in the photos. So
correct.
One of the things we needed to do from a staging perspective is make sure we were highlighting that the staging worked well so that the photos were right. And
absolutely.
Another thing that we do when we are thinking about spaces and how we're going to bring furniture and decor is, how does it look from different angles? How are the photos going to look? Mm-hmm. And not just how do you walk in the space,
right?
But is this going to be one of the stop the scroll moments on the listings that people are looking at in Collingswood? And this one stood out. You're scrolling through Zillow and you see the amazing fireplace set up here. It catches your eye.
Absolutely.
And to your point about, oh, maybe they've seen this listing before, I'm scroll past it. Another thing that we leaned into a little bit, but we're also careful of, was the color red.
Because of the exterior.
Because of the exterior. So
that's why we're wearing red today.
Red can be a very
polarizing
color. So we had to be careful in bringing little touches of that so it related to the front of the home, but not being overwhelming, and making sure that it just felt like the same home throughout. So whenever you walk through a new space, it made sense. It connected. Yes. There are opportunities for buyers coming in to repaint things like that and all that. That wasn't part of our property prep, but it was something that stands out with the home. So making sure that it works together with everything else that we're doing with the marketing so that it can really showcase the home in its best light.
There's probably a lot of people watching. They're looking around their spaces now thinking, I want to sell my home. I don't know where to start. What should they do?
Yeah,
they should hire you.
They should call us.
Of course.
We certainly can come through and give some recommendations, talk about what the opportunities are, what the options are, and making sure that we are kind of thinking about like, what are their goals? And that's what we always start with. And that's what you and I started with this particular home with the sellers is, what are they trying to get? Because if you're trying to maximize your profit versus, hey, I can't handle anything else, I just need to get it listed, but then that impacts pricing. Those are the things we have to consider. So that strategy, what we give as a recommendation, really comes from those goals. And sometimes it can just be simple paint that really transforms a space like this one, or in some cases it might be a little bit more of a repair. Floor needs to be replaced or other things need to happen. You might need a slightly longer timeline. Now's the time to reach out if anybody's planning on wanting to sell their home and making a move. And then working with an agent who understands those strategies, this local market, and what it requires to get those top tier prices and sell quickly.
Could not agree more, because I can't recall how many times I've heard people say, well, the house sells itself. No.
For the right price.
No, it doesn't. Not usually.
Right.
There's a strategy and prep work to everything, and especially now with buyers being a little bit more just wary of affordability, of taking a look at how much work a property is going to need versus what they're seeing. They are a little bit more adverse to taking on a property that needs more work because all they see is dollar signs. Projects. And usually, in my experience, what I have found is most folks either severely overestimate the cost of those improvements, or they underestimate them, or they have no idea.
Right.
And so from a home seller perspective, taking all of those question marks out for a home buyer is so key. Right. Because when they have more information, they can make a better informed decision. And so that's why we like to work with stagers like Jess, because then it's a cohesive approach. The marketing is synergized. Everything is a cooperative effort. The seller sees that, and what is the end result? A better result for the seller and a 500% ROI.
Absolutely.
And a home that's going to close within under 30 days.
Yes, it's quick.
Very quick. Couldn't have asked for anything better.
I know. It's an amazing case study, and exactly why we wanted to talk about it and kind of have that story to share about what we did and how it turned out. I mean, it's incredible.
And we had a lot of negativity to overcome.
We did. We had our work cut off for us.
We did. And yet we were able to do that.
Yeah.
The sellers were aligned, we were aligned, buyers loved it, and
Right.
that was what was the most important thing. Everyone wins.